Hi, this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. So, someone asked me to try and explain what I mean by being authentic, or how do you become authentic? Another one of those marvelous little words. Um, so, the authentic self is sort of a catchphrase that's been around for a while now. And what I think it means is finding out who you are at your core. It's like the center of your being, your essential self, the part of you that doesn't change no matter what life you're in. It's like the center of your universe, the center of the lives that you live, and trying to find it while you're in a life. And the way I think of it, it's like, okay, so we all have different responses under certain circumstances. Different aspects of our personality will come out. Different survival tactics will be used in order to keep ourselves safe and so forth. And Moira described it as like being a diamond and trying to stay at the center of the diamond and looking out through the different facets. So the facet that you're showing the world can appear different to other people, but if it's still connected to that central core of who you are, your essential self, then you're always you, no matter which facet you're using to interact with the universe or with the world or with people or so forth. And I think that that's part of what it means to be authentic. Um, like, so my 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 feelings about everything doesn't change when I'm not on camera. I'm still the same person when I'm sitting here in my temple talking to you guys, or when I'm having dinner in my living room and watching a movie. It's like, it doesn't matter what my external activity is, I'm still me no matter what. So it doesn't matter what I wear, it doesn't matter whether I do or don't wear makeup, it doesn't matter what I look like, it doesn't matter um, where I am on the planet. Um, there's just this me that's always there. It's always a part of who I am in everything I do. And since my focus is not putting on errors, one of the reasons why we talk about some things, and I admit to mistakes that I make and so forth, is because I'm in process like everyone else is, and not better than anyone else. It's just in some ways slightly farther along in my process, partly because I'm older, but also because I've worked hard at it. And it does take a certain amount of work. Um, so the thing about being authentic is, okay, someone came up with a good example, one of the other witch elders that I know. And I thought her description of that was pretty accurate. It's like you can tell if someone is a real witch and really knows what they're talking about. If you're online and they're in a group with you and you ask a question, um, if they have an answer, they'll give it. But they'll just give you the answer, give you their input and so forth, and then be gone. Like, I've done this any number of times on Facebook groups and so forth. If a question pops up in my timeline, and I look at it, and it's only been up for a minute and no one else has answered it, then I'm like, okay, I can say, if I know something about it, then I'll say something about it. I can have exactly the same question pop up my timeline, but if 35 or 45 people have already answered it, I see no reason to add my input, because it's like the person has got enough information to get from where they are now to another spot. Sometimes I'll actually go through the trouble of reading all the responses and see if there's anything other than what everyone has already said that I can add to the conversation. And that's one of those things that annoys me greatly in a lot of posts, where someone will ask a question and then everyone will answer the same way and no one pays any attention to what anyone else has said. But if I'm going to be genuine and feel it's worth my time or effort to even leave a response, is it worthwhile, not just to me, but to the person, then I'm going to go through and read all the responses and decide whether or not I have anything to add. And then I don't expect anything in return. It's like not looking for attention, not looking for praise, not looking for thanks. Although being appreciated is always nice, I don't avoid being appreciated. It's just that it's not the motivation for doing it. It's a genuine caring about getting the information out so that people can make better choices or better decisions or have a chance of making a different kind of choice for their lives that might lead them to being, in a happier place or whatever. But I also know that it's not my job to do that for everyone. And that's the reason why we have this format the way we do. Like, I'm not here to argue or about my experiences or what I've learned, or to justify and validate them by having other people either agree or disagree. I mean, that's not the kind of conversation I want to have. For me, a conversation is, this is my experience, this is what happened to me, this is my process, this is what I learned about it, and then I put it out there, and then someone can take that and have their own process and their own experience, and it may relate, and if it relates, they can share that it relates, and they can feel validated and know that they're not alone, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Or they can have a completely different experience and share that. But it's like, the idea is like, this isn't like a scientific endeavor at a university level where we're trying to do mathematical proofs to prove how the universe is put together and argue with each other about whether that math works or not. Like, life is a subjective experience, and knowing it's subjective. And so people disagreeing with me doesn't bother me in any way. People are free to disagree with everything I say, and that's perfectly fine. And in fact, I kind of would prefer to have someone genuinely disagree with me because of their own experiences than to have someone agree with me just because they think it's the right thing to do. You get what I mean by that. So one of the reasons why, when people ask me to give them information about, I don't know, their matrons and patrons, their past lives, or so forth, that I generally do not respond to that, is because it's your journey, not mine. And if you're going to become authentic and yourself, asking me what you're supposed to be doing with your life is not a good question. I mean, I consider that, well, in my experience, I have come to understand that when I did give people advice about certain things, and then if they followed it and it didn't work the way they wanted it to, then it was my fault, and they were no longer responsible for their own actions because I gave them the advice and now it was all on me. So that's one part. But the other part is to make sure that I'm not attempting to take someone else's power from them. I want to empower people. I don't want them to be dependent or, can only exist if they get a certain response or whatever. I mean, and that's the other reason for the boundaries and talking about boundaries a lot. It's like someone asked me recently what the purpose in their life was. I'm not going to know the purpose in your life. I'm not going to, even if I think I do know the purpose that you're here for, I wouldn't tell you. Because if I did, that would take away the entire purpose for finding it in the first place. And you'd be doing my purpose, not yours. And so that is another another part of being authentic. It's like I want people to be individuals and to make their own mistakes and make their own choices and decisions and take responsibility for their own actions. And that's how you create an authentic person, is by doing that. Um, it's not as easy as going to a psychic fair and having a bunch of tarot readings or what have you, and have people say, oh, yeah, you're supposed to move, you're going to get a new job, you're supposed to be going somewhere else, you're not going to go anywhere, so don't do that. It's like, putting a bunch of ideas in your head that are now maybe conflicting with what the universe is trying to, you know, motivate you to do or to allow you to do. It's like, yeah, I don't think that stuff is healthy. I don't think it's good. And so I won't do it. Um, and I'm okay with that decision because this is my life that I'm leading. And the decision to share this stuff with everybody uh, didn't come early on. I mean, obviously, I'm 72 now. I've been doing this, I think I was 69 when I started doing this, doing the videos and things. And I just, you know I was born somewhat different than a fair number of people. And maybe I've had some encounters that, people like me don't have anyone else to talk to. And to know that they may not actually be crazy, although maybe we all are, I don't know. But, and the other thing, like being authentic, if you're truthful, truthfulness is part of being authentic. Because when you are authentic and truthful, you don't have to try and remember what it is you think or believe or what you said you did. You certainly can have a different take on an experience that you've had in the past, because as time goes on and our perspective as we look back changes, and we maybe gain insight or more information about what we think happened or what it meant or so forth, that's not the same thing as, that's not lying. That is just growth and having a wider perspective on things. But when we do that, we should know that we're doing that. It's like, this is what happened, this is what I did, this is now what I learned from what I did, because I didn't learn that until a lot later and when it happened another 3 or 4 times, whatever. And that there's no, I don't believe in the concept of sin and punishment. I believe in wrong as far as wrong action is concerned, but I think that even wrong action can be, what's the word? I'm not quite finding the right word for what I mean. That you can transform it into something more positive in yourself and learn something from it. I mean, whatever that happens to be. But that some people just have no one's good interest at heart. And for myself, I don't know if this is part about being authentic or not, but my personality is what it is. I'm an empath. I feel and have felt a lot what people go through. Because of that, it has colored and informed my actions. When I was with my second husband, he would start a big fight over who knows what. And then at some point in the fight, I would realize that he wanted me to fight the same way he was fighting. And I knew it felt terrible at my end. I did not like how he was making me feel. And because I knew what it would feel like if I did the same to him, then I would refuse to do it. And he would get extremely angry with me because he felt that I was taking on airs, thought that I was better than him because I wouldn't, as he put it, come down to his level. Which certainly was nothing about what was going on in my head. It was like, the torture I went through and all the other stuff that happened to me um, gave me more empathy towards other people and more compassion for the things that they go through, and also made me not want to do that to anyone else because I knew how it felt. And it's like it is one of those things that it confuses me. I don't understand how anyone can say, well, they did it to me, so I'm going to do it back to them so that they know how it felt. It's like, I already know how it felt. I can't do that because then that would hurt me. It's like the energetic backlash from that would be extreme. Um, so I believe in kindness and compassion, but I also believe in not being pushed around, and I'm not a pushover, and I am pretty clear what my boundaries are and what is and is not okay, and I know who I am, and so other people thinking they know how I feel doesn't impact me at all. I mean, you can only be upset and affected by that if you don't really know who you are. If you actually know who you are, them misunderstanding you and thinking you're someone completely different than you are really doesn't have any effect on you, which is a good place to be. I can tell you that. And I know it takes time to get there, and it's not easy. Certainly, it's taken me long enough to get to that point. But it's a worthy goal, I believe. And when you are being authentic with yourself, then if something feels wrong, you know it. And this is not you. It's like you start to do something and it just it's like all these like kind of thing, energetic stuff comes up and goes like, that's not right. And it could be that it's just an anxiety kind of response to something new and different, knowing that you're going to have to change, but it could be that it's just not you. And you shouldn't force yourself to try and do something. I'm really annoyed by um, television programs at the moment and how little they show boundaries, accepting other people's boundaries. Almost every show I've watched of late, if there's a circumstance where somebody wants to take somebody out to dinner or whatever, and they want them to have a drink or something, and the person says no, I don't feel like it, and they're like, oh, you just should put that aside because this will be fun, you should come anyway, and you should do this whether you feel comfortable with it or not because you're being a stick in the mud, or in the push against somebody's instinct to say no. And I would really like to see things like that change in the programs that we see, where when somebody says, no matter who they are, whether they're a man or a woman, I don't care, if a character says, hey, let's go do this, and they say, I don't think that's a good idea, I don't feel like it right now, they go like, okay, do you have anything else you'd like to do? Is there something you would rather do than this? Maybe I would like to do something else too, and I'd be okay with that. Or I can just go off by myself and do this thing I like, and you can do the thing you like, and and none of this push, trying to break down people's boundaries and make them change their mind to suit you. So that's one of my pet peeves, I guess. So I have a few. But anyway, as an authentic person, that wouldn't work on me. I don't care how much somebody pushes me. If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. That's all there is to that. And I'm not going to let people be in my life who would try to do that to me. They're gone. If they can't respect me and my boundaries and respect me for who I am and for what my likes and dislikes are, and think that it's their job to try and teach me. That's one of the other things is in my life, I've had so many men in my life, starting with my father and going on from there, who thought they knew better than I did about what I needed and who I was and what I ought to face. My father trying to force me to face my fear of fire by making me light a gas stove with a match after he had the gas on for a while, so it would make this big whoosh kind of thing, and scare me to death. as one example of that kind of thing. And I disagree with that completely. And I did not do that to my children. And certainly Ian in my relationship, if he doesn't feel like doing something, that's perfectly fine. If he wants to go and meditate or listen to music or paint, he needs to do what he needs to do for himself first. And I do the same. And that's one of the reasons why our relationship works, I think. Is we actually have a genuine respect for one another, and we're not there to fulfill some kind of emotional need that comes out of a past projection and needing to be reassured by the person that we're with that everything is okay and so forth. But yeah, anyway. So I guess that's about as much as I can say at the moment about being authentic. Again, I never know if this makes sense to anybody else. But hey, that's just the way it is, right? Because I'm being authentic. I don't know. And so, as always, I appreciate you guys and your asking questions, asking for more information, asking for subject matters that I may not know I actually know something about, because unless the subject comes up, I don't think about it. So I'll leave you with that, and hope everybody has a marvelous time, whatever you're doing, and breathe deep, and smell the air, and be in the moment, which is the best moment you're going to have, each moment. So this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan, blessed be.